folks, and welcome back to another episode of your Brains Coach podcast. My name is Angela Shurina. I'm your host, I'm your Brains Coach, and it is my job here to bring to you all the best, recent, cutting edge, most effective brain body tools so you can take better control of your brain, of your mental, emotional, physical state to achieve all of your goals, to feel, look, and do your absolute best, but most importantly, get closer and closer to living the life experience you desire. So today is Monday, at least in this part of the world, in this corner of the world where I am, and I'm recording this podcast on Monday morning, and no better topic for Monday morning than talking about how to get yourself into action, how to get from apathy into motivation, into results, into making things happen, no matter what's happening, no matter how much change is there, no matter how unpredictable the world is, getting into action. And then also how to create, today we're going to talk about how to create more stability in the midst of all the things changing. By the way, today we are doing sort of book study. So I finished literally yesterday. I finished this book, amazing book. It recently came out by one of the top performance coaches out there. His name is Brett Stulberg, and the book that he came out with is called Master of Change: How to Excel When Everything is Changing, Including You. Again, Master of Change by Brett Stulberg: How to Excel When Everything is Changing, Including You. Amazing book, so many tools. It's divided into three parts: mindset, identity, and actions. And the main concept or theme that goes through the book is how to become rugged and flexible, how to be ambitious and driven and determined and almost hard, and at the same time flexible and adaptable and self-compassionate and soft. Only when we are able to combine that flexibility, at the same time determination, we are able to move in life, make progress no matter what's happening around us, also feeling well, feeling like we're living our life meaningfully, purposefully, beautifully, that it's a fulfilling journey. Amazing book. Again, pick it up. I have no affiliation whatsoever, but I also already am inviting Brett to my podcast. So over the next couple of months, we're going to get him. So stay tuned for that. But today I wanted to share with you a few strategies that I personally also, because of my coaching experience and in my personal life, I found these strategies to be the most effective. Now, there are strategies that different teachers, different coaches, they have different names, they use it in different ways. But I found these strategies, how Brett put them in the book, it's very simple, very digestible, and very useful, very structured way. So as I mentioned at the beginning, we are talking today about how to move into action, but then also how to take action among all the things changing. And very often that change produces very uncomfortable emotions, from anxiety to not having confidence to overwhelm and not knowing what to do, this paralysis by analysis and feeling like you're stuck and things are just not working, and life maybe is not working. Maybe you start even losing the sense of meaning and purpose, and it all feels like just going through the motions. So all of that is going to be addressed on today's podcast, but in a simple way, in a very practical way. So after today's podcast, you're going to have a lot of homework to do. Well, not a lot, but you got to take action, because without action, there is no change. We're going to start with the motivation piece, how to get yourself into action when you feel apathetic, when, let's say, the weekend is over and you're not really sure what to do, how to do it, or if you even want to do it. Brett, I like that Brett brought together a lot of concepts, even though some of them cannot be well defined. Like, for example, sometimes we feel apathy, but it's not because we are fatigued and tired and we didn't recover well. Like, our body, our brains, our whole machinery is well recovered, but we're still feeling this almost fake fatigue. Brett actually uses this phrasing, fake fatigue, in the book. We feel apathy, like maybe we should sleep more or rest more or do some biohacking and recovery protocols. When what we actually need to do to shake off this apathy and get into action, we need to start taking action. And there is a paradox, like, well, I don't feel like taking action. Why should I? Like, maybe you have fitness goals or health goals. Maybe you have business goals. It's the last quarter, October 2nd today. But you just don't feel like doing that. And you're like, this is, how do I take the action if I already don't feel like taking action? There is a concept that Brett talks about in his book that's called behavioral activation. The basic idea is you can't think yourself into a new state of being. So what researchers learned is that with action comes dopamine and comes this activation energy that makes you want to take more action. But the hurdle, of course, is to take the first action. So you start this dopamine flow. So you start this energy flow. When we take action, our brain actually starts releasing dopamine. And with the dopamine, we start feeling more energetic. More energy is used for action in our cells. Dopamine is also a molecule of creativity, of learning, of ideas. So when you start taking action, you get that flow of creative ideas, of better solutions, and you start feeling like doing more. The more you get going, the easier it becomes. The more you get going, the easier it becomes. And I personally noticed it so many times. Like, I would be in my bed and I'm like, I don't want to do that. It feels so complex, so overwhelming. Like, I have to connect with different people that I don't necessarily feel comfortable connecting with. And I have to start a new project from scratch. And I'm not really sure what I'm doing. And there are so many things I need to be doing, but I don't have time and capacity to do all of them. So what I do, right? And it's a mix of this overwhelm and apathy and not wanting to get out of from my blanket, from my bed. But then I start taking action, one simple action, one at a time, and all of a sudden there are these better ideas, better solution. There is this clarity, and the path kind of appears. And I notice that to be true so many times. So when I was reading it in Brett's book, this is what I advise my clients when we don't know what's going to work. So let's just take the action that we can think of. And I ask them what they think is the best action, and I give them a little bit of my guidance from my expertise, my experience, and we start taking action. And then from the feedback, we get better ideas and more solutions, and we take better action. So the idea is there is this concept of behavioral activation. When we start doing things, our whole brain-body chemistry changes, and we are better problem solvers, but we also have more energy and we want to do more. And now the problem, of course, is to take this first action. And what Brett recommends, and most of the coaches, performance coaches and other coaches recommend it, is start with the next best thing you can think of, number one. And number two, start small. And I believe there is also a very important concept, guys, that we don't maybe talk that much about in our society. We're get motivation, get discipline, make yourself feel powerful. But I believe David Goggins actually talks about that quite a lot, that you don't have to feel anything to get going. Like yesterday I was going to the gym. I did not feel like going to the gym, but I have a new goal for the next quarter, and there are a certain amount of workouts and certain nutrition protocols that I need to stick with. And I didn't feel like going to work out yesterday. It was Sunday, and I still did. You see, and during the workout, I still didn't feel like much of anything, really. I was kind of more of a physically tired side, but I also knew during the week I'm not going to have that much time for working out, so I needed to show up on Sunday. And guess what? Workout happened just like I planned it. It didn't matter if I felt like it or it didn't feel like it still happened. So whatever your mind tells you, like, I don't want to do it, it's too hard, too overwhelming, too uncertain, you can hear that, don't listen to that, and still do that. And guess what? Results will come from actions, not from the way you think about that, not from the way you feel about that, but from the actions you take. So act is if or not if. Feel what you feel, think what you feel, think what you think, and act regardless. Sometimes, maybe often, especially if you're going after hard goals, things will happen that you don't plan, and it's okay. By the way, in Brett's book, it's like a red thread throughout the whole book that things will happen. Things will not go according to your plan. We also talked about that on the mountain last Friday. We do our founder walk that Will Green, an entrepreneur, like a system builder, organizes here. And with Adrian, we were talking, Adrian, just a friend of mine, and we were walking together. We were talking about exactly that. Why do we expect life to go according to our plan? Like, why did we get the silly idea that the whole universe, the whole world should work according to our plan? Nothing works like we plan it in our head, and it's okay. Things, challenging things, uncomfortable things, sad things, tragic things, shit hits the fan, things will happen, and that's totally fine. And we can still find a solution, adjust, adapt, take action, and make the best out of the situation when we don't just throw our hands in the air. So the basic idea of this whole part of our podcast today, you can feel and think whatever and still do the actions that you have on your plan. You don't need to feel motivated. And that's, I guess, what they say when they say, I don't feel motivated, when successful entrepreneurs talk about how they don't usually use their motivation or anything all that often. They just do the actions. And they basically recognize this idea that you can feel and think different things depending on so much stuff happening in your life, and you can still take action. One bonus advice from me as someone who specializes almost helping their clients to find their why, their deeper reasons, is that when you truly understand why taking action and proceeding with the plan is important, when you truly understand, when you truly connect your action plan with values, with purpose, meaning, trajectory of your life that is truly, again, deeply meaningful to you, when you do that, that's when you take action, no matter what are those momentous feelings and thoughts. And that connection seems to be very crucial. When I work with my clients on their health journey or on their performance journey, first couple of sessions, I make sure to dig deeper and so together we connect to their deeper reasons, their deeper why, whether that's showing up for their families in a much powerful way, whether that's showing up in the boardroom in a more powerful way, whether that creating the impact, the legacy that they desire, whatever that is, it has to be very meaningful and very deep. And then when we see that the progress is stuck, and for whichever reason we don't take actions as effectively, as consistently, then I get back to, again, to that why, to that idea, to that identity. Why is this truly meaningful to you? Let's again reconnect with that and find the motivation to overcome this hurdle. But again, back to the practical idea. When you don't feel like doing much and you seem to not have a lot of ideas, just take action. The next best or worst or mediocre action, whatever action you come up with, behavioral activation. You're going to get the dopamine flowing. The dopamine will create more energy, more creative ideas, more creative solutions. Plus, from action, you're going to get the feedback. And again, you're going to get better ideas, better solutions. You might even get results. Sometimes I would just take any action and guess what? Sometimes it would give me a sale. I'm like, oh, I didn't know that would work, and it did. Let's see what's all that about. So you never know. But You cannot think yourself into a new state of being. That quote was in the book, and I heard it many times in different books and from different authors. Brett Stulberg did a really great job at kind of combining all of the teachings, all of the concepts of performance and improvement, practical improvement. He combined all of that in a very structured way, in a very practical way, giving you tools like, if you don't feel like it, you're stuck, then take the first action, make it simple, make it tiny, take whatever action, and then see how you're going to start feeling better and better and better. The more you get going, the easier it becomes. And then you're out of this rut and you are acting. So this is the practice number one. No matter what you think, no matter what you feel, do the plan and you'll get the results. And in the process of doing things, you're going to get better ideas, better solutions. You're going to feel better, more energized. So take action. Today is Monday. Just take whatever action. Go for a walk. Do the routine. And that leads us to the point number 2, routines. First of all, when you do the routine, you are in the action mode. So when I go for my morning walks, when I do my morning cold shower, when I do my morning meditation sort of intention setting, those are actions, and they put me into a certain state emotionally and mentally, and they put me into the action mode. And then from there, I just flow into my day naturally. But routines are also important to create the sense of stability. I traveled for 15 years. Now I'm finally settling down in Cape Town. So I traveled for 15 years, and there was a lot of stability in my work, in my relationship, even in the place where I stay, I sleep. Sometimes I didn't know where I would sleep for the next month. Actually, quite often would happen. What I'm going to have for food, what people I'm going to have in my environment, how I'm going to connect with and make friendships and build a sense of community. How am I going to grow my business? And, when you're not sure about your business, and when you're not sure about where you're going to sleep, and you're not sure even about who you're going to talk to and meet, it's like a lot of uncertainty. And the only thing that kept me grounded, kept me going, kept me sane were my routines. And it's a universal truth that routines create this grounding, this rooting system, so to speak. You don't have to have stability in your physical world. If you have the routines, you're gonna create the certainty needed to deal with all the uncertainty in your life. Every Friday here in Cape Town, with Will Green's organized founder walks, we do this walk up the mountain, 6 a.m. in the morning, and we do this routine. And I sent a message, a screenshot to Will yesterday with this passage about routines and how it creates stability among all the changing things. And our world is rapidly changing right now, folks. Please acknowledge that the world is changing at a much faster pace that is accelerating. So it's normal if you feel overwhelmed, if you feel ungrounded, if you feel anxiety, and if you feel all of this, not that comfortable feelings. That's totally fine. Nobody lived in that amount of speed and changes and uncertainty. Well, at least that's how we believe, because our ancestors probably also dealt with a lot of shit, right? Populating this earth and having to figure out from scratch. But it feels like now everything is so much faster, is changing at an accelerated pace like never before, from technology to all kinds of social elements. Back to our walk, and I shared this screenshot from Brett's book with Will about how that's exactly why I go on this walk so consistently every freaking Friday. Like some people, most of the people go one day, the next day, or the next Friday, and then they don't go. I show up every single Friday once I started. And I was telling Will, this is exactly why I do it. It's the routine. It creates the stability. And then plus, of course, we go up the mountain. There is feeling of awe. And I'll explain to you why it's also important. There is a whole range of things. But the most important, I told him, like some people go to church to get these rituals, these routines for connecting with something bigger than themselves, with their community. And for me, your walks is that. I get the sense of connection with something bigger than myself. Nature is my church. And then I also connect with the community of like-minded people, entrepreneurs and founders. And I do this rite of passage almost, this hard walk up the mountain that still triggers my fitness levels to, be challenged, to feel like I'm challenged. A combination of those things makes just perfect ritual routine. But that's of course once a week, but then every day I do my walk, I do my cold shower, I do my meditation intention setting. And all of that creates this scaffolding, that's the term I heard from Tim Ferriss, that allows my nature, my talents, all of the plans, dreams, desires, and all of the uncertainty of life to flow into this naturally created structure. And then I feel more balanced. I feel more grounded. I feel more confident. And then I feel like I can allow a lot more uncertainty, a lot of more creativity, a lot of more experimentation, and I don't feel threatened, I don't feel anxious, I don't feel overwhelmed, because I have a feeling of this stability. And the second point of today's podcast is create the routine. Especially if you are an entrepreneur, business owner, especially in today's environment, create the routine that will give you the sense of stability, the sense of continuation, the sense of almost home, getting back to the same things every day, having rituals. Like, again, some people go to church, some people go to the top of the mountain, having some weekly rituals that allow you to connect with something bigger than yourself, connect with your community, connect almost with your spirit and your soul. All of these things will create, again, this foundation that will allow you to experiment, to leap, and to feel okay with this change and progress. And again, routines just really great at creating the sense of stability in the chaos. And plus, again, back to the point number one, it puts you into this action mode every single day. And as an entrepreneur, business owner, you need to create this consistency. Nobody's pushing you. You need to consistently push yourself into action. And if you're not able to do that, then you're never going to succeed as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, and you'll have to quit and find something else. So routine, create one. And I also love that Brett touched upon the idea that create routine, stick with that, but also be okay with the fact that it will change. And on some days, or on a lot of days, you're not going to be able to do exactly the routine, like the minutes and timing and everything, the perfect food, the perfect everything. And that's okay. And that's when you have to keep it flexible and adjust. Like, my meditation might change. If I don't have internet connection, I can do meditation with my eyes closed. I know exactly how to walk myself through inside of my mind all the important points. If I don't have cold shower in the morning, I'll take it in the afternoon or whatever. I do get some movement, even if it's at the airport or in the middle of the city. I do whatever I can do to put some of that scaffolding back, especially when a lot of things are changing. But I'm also very flexible and adjustable. If I don't have what I want to have for breakfast, I'm going to have whatever's the best next available option. And that's exactly what kept me going for 15 freaking years around the globe, having experienced so many changes that most people wouldn't be able to even comprehend how that is possible. And that's how routines are so powerful. They allow you to tolerate so much more uncertainty and changes, feeling confident and still feeling like you're moving forward, like you have the capacity and resources to move forward towards meaningful and audacious goals in your life. So that's about routine. They have served so many purposes. And now the last but not least, I really loved the concept from the book Master of Change four P's that Brett introduced that help us to move, take action, take effective action in the situation where a lot of things are uncertain or changing. Like, for example, if you have your business and some regulation came out, like Airbnb, for example, now is going, as I see, through a lot of transition. A lot of countries and cities don't want Airbnb to become the only way to book a place. Like here in Cape Town, it, for example, very prominent. Like I notice it's very hard to actually find a great or even a good apartment without Airbnb. And the cost of Airbnb is higher, but then also you don't get a long-term contract. From one perspective, Airbnb is very convenient if you're looking for hotel-like contract or accommodation. From the other side, if you are a foreigner like myself, it's very hard to book anything long-term because everything is on Airbnb and hosts don't really want to book out the place because, well, financially it doesn't make sense. But what I'm saying is the regulators in many countries are seeing this fact and putting certain restrictions and regulations on Airbnb hosts. And then, of course, from the perspective of an Airbnb host, it feels unfair. Like, this is my business and this is my property and I want to do whatever I want to do. And so that change can affect someone's business, like an Airbnb host, a lot, especially if there is some ban or something that, again, changes the whole structure of what Airbnb was as business. And so if you're a business owner on the Airbnb side of things, you have to adjust and you have to figure out things, how to support yourself, how to keep going with all of these regulations. And you probably might not be certain. Regulations might change and a lot of things might not go as planned. And you have to try things, experiment. So Brett introduced this concept of 4 P's to deal with these uncertain situations that we all will eventually go through. Things will change and that's okay. Master of Change, the book, like a red thread throughout the whole book. Things will go wrong. Things will not go according to the plan. Adjust your expectations. And what Brett also brought in the book really well with statistics and examples, that people who are the happiest actually have these kind of expectations. Then things will not work out, will go wrong, tragics will happen, and that's fine. That's what life is. So besides the expectation, what do you do when things like uncertain things happen in your business, in your life? Maybe your relationship will collapse and you had like your whole life plan figured out. Like, what do you do with that? So the concept of 4 P's: pause, process, plan, proceed. Pause, process, plan, proceed. Pause. When shit hits the fan and things are happening, your first response in your body and brain is emotional. And in that state, you are not making your best decisions. Let's just agree on this fact. Emotions alone will not give you the best decisions. So you need to pause before acting. And in that pause, the best way to switch on your logical brain as well, not just your emotions and your fear and your anxiety, what you do is you pause and you name the feelings. You describe exactly what you're going through internally and externally. And research shows, and Brett talks about this in the book, that the better you describe your state, your feelings, your emotions, everything that's going on inside of you, the more you transfer that into the logical brain, the brain that will help you to make the best decisions based on the situation, on your past experience, on your future plans, etc. So first is pause and label the emotion. What exactly are you feeling? And also what exactly is happening? Not like the whole world is collapsing, oh my God, what am I going to do? No, like what exactly happened? Exact fact, as much objectivity as possible. Label your emotion, what's happening inside of you, the anger, maybe the anxiety, the fear, the sadness, the whatever that is. I also don't have a very good emotional vocabulary in English, so I need to work on that. But label your emotion, that the first step that will help you to pause and start the next step, processing. So process and plan is all about looking at the situation inside and out and from a more distant perspective. And so the very important step of processing and planning is to be able to distance yourself from the situation as much as possible. And the tools that have been proven by the best coaches, psychologists, all kinds of therapists, and Brett talks about them. The tools for self-distancing are things like, how would you act if that was your friend that was happening to? What advice would you give to your friend if that was a situation happening to them? Not to you, but to your friend. That you start the process of self-distancing to process it and to plan after that in a more objective manner. So when you distance it from yourself, you start being more objective. That is true for all human beings. So when you imagine that you're giving advice to your friend, you're doing self-distancing. The second thing is to go and experience awe, or what I like to call it, go and connect with something bigger than yourself. Go and connect with the world. Specifically, nature helps a lot. If you can hike the mountain, do that. But even just walking in the woods, in the park, the city walks with a lot of traffic don't usually help that much. It makes you feel almost sometimes worse. Like for me, that always the case. I feel more caged, not inspired or enlarged and self-distance. So go and walk in a park, however small, maybe see ocean view. That's why I love living by water, by the ocean, by rivers. Go and hike the mountain, connect with nature, experience that sense of awe, something bigger than yourself. That will also help you to self-distance from the situation. And then engage in mindfulness practices on a regular basis. That's where meditation helps. It helps you to distance yourself from yourself. So in all the life situations, you can make decisions more objectively, not being carried away by emotions and moments in your ego that takes, control of you in so many different situations. So self-distancing, the best ways are talk to yourself like you would talk to a friend, connect with something bigger like yourself. Nature is the best. And practice mindfulness. Meditation in whichever form is one of the best way to do so. But there are also other mindfulness practices that I'm not going to go deeper into here. So that's how you start processing information and making plans in a more objective manner. Once you created the pause with labeling your feelings, identifying exactly what's going on inside of you in the environment, you process that. You again keep this by being more self-distant. So talk yourself like you would talk to a friend. Okay, this happened, that happened. What would I advise my friend to do in this situation? And then you naturally flow into the planning stage. And as we talked at the beginning of the podcast, you don't have to have a perfect plan. Just take some action. And from that action, take the next action. And sometimes the best action is to just do nothing and allow your emotions to subside and situation to cool down. Very often, that's the best option. The first action step in the plan, just to get yourself out of the situation. That will also lower the stress and anxiety and emotions and all of that very naturally. And maybe that's when you go and take a walk in nature. That's when you would start coming up with better solutions, better action steps. And then once you're in a ready to act state, just take one step at a time. And what Brett recommends, take every action as an experiment, not something that has to work, that must work. It's going to create more pressure, anxiety, and stress on you. That is not going to be always at all helpful. Take action and treat every action as an experiment. Sort of, okay, let me try this. I'm not sure. I might be overwhelmed. I might be emotional. Let me take this action, see what happens. And then from that, you take the next action and then the next. The whole idea is do the next best thing. In a lot of situations with a lot of things changing, that's the best scenario. But before, of course, again, pause, label the emotions, you make the emotion less intense. You're going to get back to objectivity by self-distancing, talk to yourself like you would talk to a friend, go for a walk in nature to experience awe, maybe meditate, then start making plans and taking action, and treat action as an experiment, not something that has to be perfect, has to be worked out, and has to create solution from the get-go. And that's what I wanted to share with you today, folks. Behavioral activation, you cannot think yourself into a new state of being. Act first, even if you don't feel like it. And that's when you start getting dopamine, the energy, the creativity, the solutions. And the more you act, the more you want to act. Routine is an amazing way to start your get-go action happening. Routines can help you to get into this action activation, but also helps you to feel more stable, more confident, more certain in the midst of the most chaotic situation. And again, I can tell you that from experience. I was in many situations where I would literally don't know how I'm going to continue my work, living, where I'm going to sleep the next night, where I'm going to eat, and who is the next person I'm going to talk to. I was in those situations, and my routines, going for walks, meditating, and taking care of myself, like taking a shower, always help me with that. They are very, very powerful, and again, allow you, especially as an entrepreneur, as business owner, to tolerate a lot more uncertainty than an average person. And that's exactly what you need to do as being able to do as an entrepreneur, as a business owner. So develop routines, rituals that allow you usually to create the stability, put you into action mode, and also connect from time to time, like our walk up the mountain with like-minded people and experiencing awe, connecting to something bigger than yourself. And then don't forget, in the midst of uncertainty, with shit hitting the fan, if you need to take action and make a plan, use the 4 P's strategy. Pause, process, plan, proceed. Pause, label the emotions, what's happening inside of you. Process, distance yourself. Talk to yourself like you would talk to a friend. Go out and connect with nature to experience awe. Practice mindfulness on a daily basis to be able to do this process better. And then plan and act. And remember, treat every action as an experiment. That's it for today. I think it was a handful. It was a lot. You have a lot of homework to do. Check in with yourself that you do take action more often than trying to overthinking, that you have a routine, and check out this process. Well, not check it out, but re-listen to this podcast, make notes, and start practicing. So when things don't go according to the plan, as they certainly will, use this 4 P's method. Pause, process, plan, proceed. Pick up the book. The link is in the show notes. Brett Stulberg, Master of Change, How to Excel When Everything is Changing, Including You. And wish me luck to get Brett on the podcast as well. Besides that, have an awesome weekend. Have an awesome last quarter. Woohoo! Welcome to the last quarter of 2023, folks. So proceed with activating energy activation or action activating energy. If you're getting value from this podcast, please, folks, share this podcast as much as possible. One of my goals for the last quarter is to bring on a couple of thousands of listens every month, and then also to monetize it. For you, it's not gonna matter. It's not gonna change a lot, but if you want extra, that's when the monetization will come in. So wish me luck, and please do share this podcast so a lot more people get exposed to this wisdom in a practical, fun, concise, stories and examples filled way. Share it wherever you are, on whatever platform you get this podcast. Also review, give us ratings. Anything helps. So please, folks, help me to keep going and help other people, entrepreneurs, founders, business owners in a more powerful way. This is the most important ask I'll ever be able to ask you. And have an awesome, empowered week. I'm rooting for you.